Ladies and gentlemen, what is up, and welcome to Captain Cynical's news roundup of the last 24 hours in Marvel Contest of Champions. We received quite a few announcements and a bit more information on kind of the ongoing development and fixes being made to version 12.0 of Marvel Contest of Champions. So I wanted to cover it, fully inform you guys, and also give my perspective on a few of the changes that they're making. So the few details that we got yesterday in the version 12.0 status update. So this came out about 1 AM in the UK last night. So there are four main bullet points here. So the first one is we are improving block proficiency across the board. So I don't really know what they mean by that one. It's a little bit vague. Is it improving it from its current state? I assume that's what they're referring to, or making it a little bit better than before. I assume it's probably the current state, because it can't really get much worse than it currently is unless you take double damage when blocking, which please don't do that, you know, if you're watching Kabam. But that one's a little bit vague, you know, there's not too much you can derive from that. Improving it sounds good, but like, you know, I want to wait and see. I want to see like what these improvements are. So the second one actually seems really promising. Damage reduction from parrying is no longer subject to diminishing returns. It will be possible for a certain high block proficiency champions to take 0 damage on parry, including Captain America and Captain America World War II. So I believe they're changing the way parry functions to be exactly the same as it was before. So hopefully that means the block proficiency doesn't, you know, when you're parrying, reduce from diminishing returns, and it's not just the 33% that you get from parry that's affected by diminishing returns. So hopefully this bullet point here means exactly that, like, parry is going back to the way it was. Like, hopefully that's what we're going to see. So that one seems quite optimistic. That's by far the best line I've read in here, but you know, I want to see before we get too excited about that one. Then the next one is you will no longer take a critical hit on a successful parry. I don't know if that was like possible before the patch at all with some of the characters that weren't, you know, the 40% block proficiency level. But that's interesting. Maybe might be better overall for some champions. I never really noticed it because block proficiency before the patch was just so high that often you really didn't take into account it much when you were parrying. So that's an interesting line. The next one makes me a little bit skeptical, a little bit like, oh, I'm a bit confused by this bullet point. So, we are zeroing out critical resistance, block penetration, and armor penetration on all current champion base stats. So they're basically turning all these stats to 0. However, like, what does this line mean? I mean, I'd rather it said, like, remove those stats, because to me, all of these stats seem completely unnecessary for the balance of the game, and, like, they just seem all very, like, completely pointless. They seem like it's going to make it a lot harder for them to balance the game around them, and if they're taking it out of base stats, what are they going to add it into? Are they going to add it into masteries, synergies in the future? Because I think we can all agree, like, these stats, like, aren't really anything that we care about or would like to see, and I don't think they add anything dynamic or interesting to the game, in my opinion, with maybe the exception of armor penetration. I can maybe get behind that one, but critical resistance, if you read the stat, that's reducing the damage you take from critical hits on a blocked hit. So that's a little bit of a weird one, and block penetration is obviously the ability to kind of you know, bypass blocking on your attacks, which, as long as your enemy has block penetration, means that your block and parries are going to be devalued. So yeah, I'm not really too sure about those stats at all, but interested to see kind of the implication. I think there's some good stuff in there. It's nice that they're being zeroed out for now, but you know, I guess we'll like worry about the future and balance of the game and these stats when we get to them. A little bit upset to see the challenger rating wasn't addressed in yesterday's update, but hopefully we'll see it today. Ideally, if challenger rating would be completely removed, that would be absolutely amazing. I'm sure we could all rally behind that one with great passion and enthusiasm. So hopefully we're going to see that very soon. Anyway, the next thing as well, which is quite a huge headline, is they are actually giving us a new round of rank down tickets, signature stone items, and awakening gems. I was actually expecting like a new round of rank down tickets, but now they've confirmed more signature stones and awakening gems. That's also pretty good, and they're also extending the deadline to use your rank down tickets. So, you know, if you're kind of worried about redoing your roster, my kind of biggest piece of advice at the moment is don't be in any rush at all to redo your champions. Just wait for this update, wait for the patch, because then you're going to have like more resources to play around with ranking down champions and ranking up hopefully some pretty good ones. So yeah, just hold all your awakenings and rank ups to the patch, guys, because I'm sure quite a few things are going to change. And then the next thing is finally that they're really, really hot on the case, and that apparently the update will be available in a few more days of revision, QA, and processing. So the definition of that is a small number. So hopefully we'll see it by the end of the week. Not too sure about that, no, not too sure. I'm going to estimate that we might see the changes like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or maybe sometime early next week, but it's very, very hard to tell at the moment. Really depends how their ongoing testing goes. Hopefully we're going to see some good stuff fairly soon. And also, Act 5 was scheduled to be released today, but with all the changes in the state of the game at the moment, they decided to postpone that. So it's going to be, it's an unannounced date yet. It might be next Wednesday. It might be even further. So we're going to have to wait and see on Act 5, but I think that was probably the right decision to do, to postpone it, because the game is just such a mess at the moment that jumping into Act 5 would just cause all sorts of problems. A lot of complaints about stuff like after the patch that might not necessarily be problems then. So I'm interested to take on Act 5 when it comes out. We saw kind of the initial like PI and bosses on the version 12.0 update teaser, so we got some information on that, and it looks like the first chapter is going to be about like 50% more difficult than Master Mode. So yeah, it seem like too hard for the first chapter, but I think it's the right decision postponing that until they've got the game in a really, really good state. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Unfortunately, because no Act 5, there will not be an Act 5 live stream tonight, but overall, it seems like they're kind of moving in the right direction with this. Again, like, we just want kind of more specifics, more information. Until then, we'll continue, until we see actual change. I firmly support voting with your wallet and continuing to not spend anything on MCOC until the changes are actually in the game and they are actually, you know, kind of acknowledged as pretty good changes. Because while there's a lot of bullet points there and stuff, like, it's not specifics, and what we want is specifics, so we can, you know, actually assess the state of the game from there. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. Apart from that, let me know in the comments below what your take on this update and changes are. Be very interested to get some more opinions on this. Apart from that, take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.